on the topic of collaboration, our next speaker, Rakesh Sinha, founder and CEO of Quintes Global, is going to talk about how CFOs can leverage collaborations to adopt a design thinking approach, moving beyond traditional make versus buy approach to identify alternatives, and that are not only used for problem solving, but also to respond to a customer-focused requirement. So with that, we'll get Rakesh to get started. By way of quick introduction, Rakesh is a highly experienced professional with over 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience in areas of advisory and management consulting, business services, business processes, transformation, and technology. He holds a technology degree and has honed his business management skills through his studies at IIM Calcutta. In addition, he's a distinguished leader with global certification as an authorized evaluator of IT SQC of Carnegie Mellon University, USA. So over to you, Rakesh.
Very nice, thank you. I think I have a tough job because I think we were talking with 2 very senior leaders providing macroeconomics views, very strategic view about shaping the overall focus of country. And I want to jump straight into something called how on collaboration. I want to talk about literally, and collaboration is nothing which is new to all of us, right? We all quite use this term so frequently in anything and everything we do. We say, well, let's collaborate, right? But I would like to take it slightly different in terms of a corporate context and share some of the experiential perspectives which we have seen working with many of the CFOs of a different kind of an organization, be it a promoter-led organization, be it a professional-run organization, and so on and so forth, mid-size organization, large corporates, how they are embracing, adopting the same thought of collaboration to really outperform and look at that co-creating the value. Not to repeat, I think we all have talked about multiple kinds of things which is making this inflection point for looking at what next. We have talked about a lot of things about Silicon Valley Bank, we talked about Signature Bank and so on and so forth. And interesting point, I think a lot of people ask the question about regulators and crisis, etc. Interestingly, there is an observation and the question is being raised on the chief risk officer now. The question is raised on the controllers and the auditors now and in a way to the CFO. So it is not just limited by the regulators, it's also about within the organization, how they look at it, it becomes important. So some of these critical inflection point connects back to one of the things I think Mr. Durga Shankar was talking about, even in Bani, we all talk about. There's another acronym called RUPT, and not to get into that. So VUCA, Bani and RUPT, there are multiple stuff which is becoming now very relevant. But one important thing he talked about is the connect of emotions, the individual and the organization. That becomes very important. And that is where this whole shared values becomes very important when you look at the collaborative or collaboration. I want to refer to an interesting model. I don't know, many of you would have known about it. There's a model from a Japanese strategic guru called 3 C's. It's called strategic triangle, 3 C's. It's company, customer, and competition, 3 C's. This is a huge impact. This critical, inflection point has a huge impact on these 3 C's. And how to manage these 3 C's is something which I want to talk in terms of, again, 3 C's. So I'm using another 3 C's to summarize some of these learnings. The 3 C's or 3 levers which CFOs can refer or leverage. The first one is what we are calling is a culture, building the culture of that collaboration. And what it means, I'll unfold very quickly. So building the culture of collaboration. The second C is construct solutions by design thinking. And many of us will be aware of design thinking, but I'll talk about how we have experienced with many of the organizations when we collaborate with them. And the last one, the third C I'm talking about is the commitment to partnership. It's a commitment to partnership, actions and execution. These all 3 C's will result into, of course, an impact on the strategic triangle, which I talked about from this Japanese strategic guru, Kenichi Ohami, which talks about company, customer and competition, and unlock the value potential and also co-create the value. So the 3 C's I would like to talk about very briefly. I'm trying to make a statement here by saying collaboration is a business. If you don't collaborate, you will not exist. So collaboration is business. And here the collaboration is just not about looking at with partners, but looking at multiple ways. And I'll talk again few of those specifics. But one important thing of the collaboration, and this is even important for even the CFO's point of view I've seen, is stay to the core. Identify what is your sub-core. I will not even say non-core, because there's nothing is non-core, because a lot of deliberations in the past have happened about core versus non-core. So we're talking about core and sub-core. I'm giving you example even in the case of finance function, for instance. People say finance is core. I agree, it is fair. Finance is core. But there are many things in the finance which is sub-core. What is core is that data, decision, intelligence. What is my cash position is a core. But how are you raising your invoice bills is not your core, it's sub-core. So where you need to spend time and where you need to find partner to collaborate becomes very, very important. The second one is exploring the power of startups. Take startups and take ecosystem. I think there is a lot of companies we have seen, they're trying to invent, reinvent, spend a lot of time in terms of doing something which can be really done well by the tech ecosystem, A, and B, the tech startups. For example, we as an organization, we have a philosophy called transformation capability as a service, and we have an ecosystem where we actually promote Indian software companies as a part of our offerings, rather just taking a COTS product and so on and so forth. So the tech startup becomes very, very important as a support, as a collaboration point of view. And the third one on the collaboration with business I will talk about is there are a lot of AI platforms, high-tech, great platforms which organizations are embracing and deploying, where they are pushing their lot of energy is in implementation versus focusing on transformation. So a lot of time goes in terms of year 2 years in terms of implementing it, and by the time the value has to become, it is already too late. So one of the learning has been that how you can prioritize, have transformation, have more series and sprints of it, and rather spending a lot of time on implementation. How to look at this building? The first C I was talking about building the culture, or the culture of collaboration. I think again, many of the organizations, if you go back and talk to your HR leaders, they will say collaborating skill is a part of our competency framework. I'm not talking about that. That competency framework or a competency, just go beyond that. We're talking about organizational capability. And as we all know, organizational capability today is all about, any capability today is all about what results into profitable or profitability to the organization. So if you have a capability, it should be connected back to the profitability of the organization. So it needs to become a culture of collaboration very clearly as a mindset and the way we all operate. One of the things which has happened in the past is a lot of organizations have moved, or the team has moved in terms of looking at generalist to specialist role. And we talk about how you move from a generalist to specialist to really going back to partnership roles. One of the areas is breaking the silos. We have created the silos. How to break the silos and become horizontal, really the horizontal. If you talk from companies like us or many of the organizations like ours, we will talk finance as a horizontal. But within the finance, it becomes a vertical, right? So how you convert horizontal, that is one point which is about internal focus. Where we am talking about is breaking the silos, not just internal, but even external. So both inside out and outside in, both we have to break the silos. Technology has been talked a lot about it. I can give you examples of where the CFOs have CIOs reporting into them, they struggle. Where the CIOs are not reporting to them, they struggle. Because they believe that IT is something somebody else needs to manage. And this is an area where progressive CFOs, some of the successful CFOs we have seen is, they don't become technology leader themselves, but they become a digital savvy today. They need to be a digital leader pretty much as an organization. They have to work with the collaborations and so on and so forth. Moving to the next point I want to talk about is the construct. I was talking about construct for solutions through design thinking. Again, design thinking is not new. A lot of people are talking about it. The challenges we are finding with many of the organizations is design thinking is left to a bucket of people. By saying some quality team will do it, some technology folks will do it, some process guys will do it, etc., etc. It is not which is led by the CXOs. And that is what we are saying it is important. Many of you would know design thinking very clearly. It is about that intuitive, systematic process. Most important is it is customer-focused problem-solving approach. Are you focused on customer? If not, then it is all about creating a solution. It is not design thinking. So it is a customer-focused problem-solving approach. And in simple way, we can say It is solving complex problems. If you have a complex problem, you need to adopt design thinking methodologies, and very, very critical from a finance leader's point of view. Actually, McKinsey makes a point very clearly to say the organizations which has adopted design thinking methodologies, they have grown in terms of revenue and investor returns pretty much twice as others. I'm repeating the statement. They believe the organizations which has adopted design thinking have grown in terms of their top line as well as investor returns pretty much twice to the others. Another interesting point I'm trying to make here is, you can see it's not about, we have been hearing for a long time about make versus buy. This is something like 40 years back, manufacturing companies will talk about, particularly the automobile, and I think engineering, sir was talking about, the engineering companies will talk about make versus buy, shop made versus bought out, as used to call it, right, in engineering. Now, we are saying it is the world has moved to a situation where, again, from a collaboration point of view, you don't need to think about make versus buy. What you need to think about is make and partner, not buy. You have to partner. So that's a paradigm shift which needs to come, and again connect back with the design thinking. So the partner needs to connect back to you as a customer and your end customer, and so on and so forth. So make versus buy to make and partner through design thinking is something which is going to be critical to create a maximum impact. I think how we have experienced it as a part of us as an organization is we look at design thinking not just from the collaboration but also from the final success or the value to be delivered. It all starts, we all know we start with by saying what is the problem, identifying it, laying it down, etc., etc. One of the challenges always have been there's a divergent views which will come in terms of problem, and people who are having the pain usually comes with their point of view. This is where design thinking talks about is you look at inside out, you bring outside in, and finally connect with the ultimate goal of delivering to the customer. So you start with the diverged views, then you start converting again or converging again in terms of what is the opportunity or a pain. If you don't do it diverge to converge, you will lose it. So diverge to converge is very, very important when you discover to define it. So you converge. Now once you define it or you have converged on that, then again they start the process of iteration with multiple opportunities of solutions. Again, the focus here needs to be with the customer point of view. I'm taking example in a finance, we always look at multiple technology solutions to be deployed. But is that technology solution going to deliver to your requirement? How are you contextualizing it is going to be very, very important. So interestingly, we have a framework which we call as BIC to BIC. Best in class to best in context, because you are a different organization, you are a unique. So what has worked for company A may not work entirely for company B, but you need to draw it from there. And that is where in the transformation point of view, we have evolved to call something called transformation in a box. So you have a contextual relevant technology, but it needs to convert or connect back to the stakeholder and the opportunity. Many times, great technology, great features actually is not even being leveraged 10%, 12% by the organization. There's a metric, benchmark, which says that less than 30% of the technology feature is what we use as an organization for what we pay. Less than 30% in India. So there's a huge opportunity to look at the technology, and the technology, in fact, there's another metric which says 90% of the POCs, tech POCs, don't see the light of the day. Because they die its own death. Because a lot of POCs are done, but the technology guys focus more on technology, and the finance guys think that I'm a business and somebody will solve everything overnight. No, it's not the case. The design thinking is an area where it will make a huge difference. So to converge to the solution. How to build success through the power of design thinking, the few points I wanted to share with you is, one is, there's a lot of focus is on the cash cows. Typically we say, everybody focuses on as a company by saying this is the customer, 4, 5, 10 customers where we're getting the best of the, revenue. And a lot of focus, a lot of, investment goes into it. A lot of investment goes in terms of even building the brand, etc. Where Even companies like Nokia is a great example. They lost it was they were not focusing on future high value customers. Again, going back to one of the examples in the macro point of view is that risk. One of the risk is, are you focused on what you want to deliver today? Or are you focusing on the potential customers or high value customers for the future? So finding those underserved target segment and renovating on that is a parallel focus than just a sequential focus. And many organizations we have seen, they don't have that parallel track of focusing. What is my high value customer segments going forward the next 3 years of the time? The companies which have done that, they have done pretty well. The second one is making design thinking, as I was talking about, not a project team focus, technology team focus, a quality team focus, etc. It should be led by the founders, the CFOs and the CXOs. They should become responsible. If you are having a design thinking workshop, the CFO is directly accountable for making sure that whatever solution you're finally laying out connects back to your customer and so on and so forth. So it should be led by the CXOs and not left to, of course, some spread work can be done by whoever it is, but finally the overall responsibility needs to be with the CXOs. Of course, it needs to have combination of design, business strategy, and technology real time. It can't be by saying, you need to have, sequentials and so on and so forth. It needs to be there. Important takeaway for all of us and we as an organization with many of the organizations as we interact with them was, don't aim for perfection. Aim for excellence. When we are deploying any solution, we try to say, okay, this is to be perfect. And a lot of time goes into looking at exceptions. Typically, then looking at how you can excel. And the solution becomes too heavy, too complex, and that's where the design thinking, the shine of design thinking is lost because the focus becomes too much on exception handling than on looking at what could be the art of possible. So move beyond, don't fall in the trap of not for perfection, but fall in for excellence. And it's an iterative process. As we say, quickly try it, continuously try it, be agile, and again go back and feed back to the process and so on and so forth, rather leaving it, it's one time and done and so on and so forth. The third C, I was talking about culture, so I talked about building the culture of the collaboration. The second one was about the construct of solutions through design thinking. And the third C I talked about is the commitment to partnerships and actions and execution. A lot of time we collaborate with partners, ecosystem, etc., but the responsibility of success is left with the partner. This is where the intent to partnership versus the committed action becomes important. Do you have those actions well defined by saying how I am committed to the partner to make it a success together versus leaving it to the partner? For example, I think Mr. Durga Shankar was talking about that emotional point, shared vision and values. Even in the poll it came out very clear. Do you have shared vision and values with your partner? If not, it is again going to be leaving it to a vendor to do something. It doesn't become collaboration. It becomes nothing new, right? So if you're talking about partnership, it becomes important. Similarly, trust and clarity of expectations. Expectations. It is not the statement of work. It's an expectation becomes very, very critical. And the last one I will talk in that bucket is win-win. And I think he defined very well that win-win. The win-win has to be seen not in arithmetic, but win-win has to be seen in the context of that emotions and multi-other dimension. And that's where it's not about always physics or mathematics, it's about the chemistry. See, in partnership, that works very well is chemistry, not mathematics and physics, right? So that chemistry and relationship becomes very, very critical, and it is a responsibility of both the sides in a partnership. That's why it becomes win-win. But usually, CFOs leave it to the partner. And that is where the gap of intent versus commitment, and we are phrasing it very clearly to say it's commitment to partnership. The second one is synergize and synthesize. And it's sequential. First, you need to synergize. So the two organizations, two collaborators, two teams, whatever, they need to synergize. They need to get the synergy benefits. But finally, when you have two, you synergize, but somewhere it has to become again wholesome with synthesis. What again happens is, many times there are two parts and they're left like running like two parts. So somebody has to take a responsibility to further synthesize. And that is where synergy to synthesis really becomes very, very critical. Otherwise, it remains as two parts. And finally, the customer who is the recipient of anything will have difficulty to comprehend. So again, the principle of design thinking and methodology of design thinking plays a very important role here. The last point on this is adapt and adopt. What do you mean by adapt and adopt it? It's about building that interdependence. It is not about being dependent on a collaborating partner or becoming too independent. Neither of this. Interdependence is when you work together, both the partners have dependence on each other. It's a mutual dependence. And interdependence is the best form of collaboration and a win-win. So moving from that, independence or dependence to build that interdependence. One of the learning again has been is a lot of time people say cross-functional team. And I can share with you many initiatives. I have done some 100 plus transformation programs globally. Cross-functional teams still comes with one Spock from HR, one from finance, one from technology, one from procurement, one from this, etc., etc. They all come with their own baggages and all their own agendas of what to do. So cross-functional team is not collaboration. Collaboration is about shared vision and values and that chemistry which I was talking about, and finally somebody taking overall responsibility, not leaving to the CFT and saying they will take care of it. It has never worked. I think the last page I have is to talk about how we have experienced as an organization some of these. So as you would have seen a small video, we are talking about, we actually came out of innovation. We came out of this customer demand. So we were not an overnight idea to create an organization to deliver something. We were having this dialogue with many organizations globally and India, CFOs, CIOs, CEOs, and we came out with an innovation to create a new product called Dedicated Captive. They always had two choices of doing something on their own, driving that transformation on their own, or giving it to typically an outsource organization. Outsource organization by design becomes more of a vendor partner and so on and so forth. So we created something where you get the best of the two and also eliminate the challenges of the two. So you get that transformation within in a way. How are we looking at this? We are looking at this target segment very clearly where we are saying you need to focus on your core. We will focus on your subcore. And does not mean that we'll become a partner which will only do subcore, but we'll look at subcore to redefine or reimagine your core, which means that how can you as an organization be looking at in terms of growth, in terms of robustness, in terms of scalability, in terms of optimization and so on and so forth, in terms of innovation. Leave that innovation with us. That's what we do as a part of transformation. Few things which we do as a part of this entire 3 C's I have been talking about as a part of collaborator. We look at commitment of optimization, putting a 5 years view and saying year 1 to year 5, how every year you will see an optimization, a decline path, not just an increase in the cost, which is something we believe is given. But beauty here of our model is the investment avoidance we talk about, because a lot of challenges people face in terms of return, payback and so on and so forth. We actually walk into the companies and say, you will get the payback the day one because I take care of the investments. You don't need to worry about it. So the moment you start, the investment is our responsibility. We'll convert the CAPEX. That's a commercial innovation we have done. It's called CAPEX to OPEX, and we do that. The last one, which is very important for us, is literally looking at value delivery, the value potential to value delivery. Value delivery is not here just about the cost optimization, but really looking at doing a P&L impact or a balance sheet impact for our customer, because finally that is the value. It's like I was talking about invoice raising versus cash. The cash is the value. The invoice raising is something which is sub-work. That is where we focus on both, taking care of this and working on that. And last one is about the ecosystem. We strongly focus on tech startups, Indian software companies, promoting them not just for India market, but even a global market, providing them as an aggregator model of saying, okay, we'll take care of the transformation in a box with the right technology and the stakeholder and change management. That's briefly about the collaboration. To summarize the 3 C's. The 3 C's of what Kenichi Omayo talked about as a strategic triangle: customer, company, and competition. And the 3 C's from a CFO lever's point of view is building the culture of collaboration, construct solutions through design thinking, and the third was commitment to partnerships, actions, and execution. It was lovely interacting with you all. Thank you. I think I still have a minute left for me as a time. If any questions, I can take it. Thank you.